Well, it's that time of year again, and by that I don't mean Christmas. I mean we get the whole Deep of the Weeds team across the whole network in the same room again for the first time since last year. How are you guys?
I am really good, Huck. It's good to be in a room with the team. It's definitely a rare occasion, but a really good one, and it makes it feel like, the end of the year and a time for celebration. I should probably introduce everyone. I'm Anthony Huckstep. That was Dani Valent, and you're here. Shanteh Wale.
Hi.
And John Susman.
G'day.
How's the year been? Silence. John?
Outstanding. No, it's been an interesting year. I mean, we've seen sort of like a semi-return to normal, but with a bit of a fist to the jaw. Certainly, certainly in food service, we've seen behaviour like I don't think I've ever seen in my life. A lot of extravagant spending at the table, from lobsters and wagyu to large format bottles of wine and I actually was in a restaurant on Tuesday about a month ago and saw a bottle of port on a table at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which I hadn't seen since probably the late 80s, which, it's like welcome back the stripy shirts and the cufflinks in the city.
That sense of extravagance has taken me back a little bit. Like, I'm surprised by it in some ways that, for me, peeling things back and sort of less is more on the plate is kind of where I'm headed, and yet we're seeing...
Oh, no, this is still just a lobster or a wagyu steak at $400.
Okay, right.
There's no foams, powders or frosts. It's just a simple steak, but it happens to be $400.
Well, there's a lot of... I remember Dani talking to Callan Boys, and the interesting thing that he said was that, like seeing chicken wings with caviar and, like all that sort of stuff, and I'm not interested in that sort of world, but there's obviously people that are into that sort of thing, but it's just...
I think it's that mashup of high and low that a lot of chefs love playing with.
Yeah.
I think, part of it is that some ingredients that were really exclusive and hard to find have become more accessible, which sometimes means they come down in price, not necessarily, but I think, is there a kind of post-COVID, we deserve it mentality about splashing out on these things? I mean, some of it's about availability, so lobsters, went down in price for a while because of the whole China thing. There's a bit of a make hay while the sun shines approach to those kinds of things as well. But I think part of it has been just celebrating the simple fact of being out and about again. And, if you feel like something can be taken away from you, then there is more of a tendency to really lean into the experience, perhaps.
What sort of year have you had, Shanteh?
I've seen a lot of the inside of my house this year, and not a lot of the outside world having a baby. But it's been a year of slowing down for sure, and reflecting a little bit more. Making hay while the sun shines, getting blueberries for $3 a punnet when I can, and
score.
Less time cooking, a lot more time defrosting things that I've put in the freezer for just that moment. But it's been a special year for sure.
What's it like as a wine person, being pregnant and having a baby? Like, how has that affected, I don't know, like everything from your palate to the way that wine fits into your life?
Yeah, it's definitely another look at it. I think that I look forward to the opportunities for a glass, and I think a little bit more about how I'm going to reward myself in those moments. With breastfeeding, you kind of have to have, there's like a magic window that I can have within a small time frame. So I think more about what I'm going to have.
It's not like between 10 and 11 a.m. or anything?
Sadly, no, I've got to wait till the afternoon. But it's been maybe just a bit more thoughtful. But in terms of palate, it changed a lot in the first trimester, and I noticed that things were a bit off. But then actually by the third trimester, I think things were more in tune, and I was frothing on tasting. I just loved it. I would sit there and I was just like bouncing out of my seat trying wines because it was so fun, and I felt that I could really just hone into nuances even more. So that was a joy.
Oh, that's really amazing.
As the father of twins, and my wife will back me up, I don't think you appreciate alcohol more than when you have babies. That sort of time in the afternoon when you pour a glass of wine, I don't think it matters what wine it is. It tastes bloody good.
Well, there's so many mum wine memes, but maybe there needs to be some dad wine memes for you.
Well, it's all hands on deck when you have twins.
Sure.
John?
Well, yeah, I mean, children do drive you to alcohol. My youngest son started as a soloist at the Berlin Ballet this year, and
Yeah,
I must
amazing.
say that my first chance to see a performance, I actually dropped a glass of champagne at the Opera House 10 minutes before the curtain call. So it was like, yeah, old man, George's old man was an arse as per usual. But yeah, children do drive you to drink, I think is the message.
You traditionally have travelled the world for your job, many times a year, and COVID sort of put a pause to that. But you've been back on planes. What's it been like going overseas?
The actual travel has been terrible. I mean, like the actual, just domestically as well. I mean, every flight is seemingly jam packed, and the services on the ground are sort of far reduced because of lack of staff or whatever else is going on. So the actual concept of travel has been really hard work, and it has been hard work. And being overseas, I mean, I was in Italy, and it was so busy. It was just insanely busy. Late summer there, and Germany really busy. Been to the Middle East a couple of times, and people just have gone mad, absolutely mad. I mean, a place like Dubai is just chock-a-block. It confuses me at times as to why, if you've got the choice of from travelling from Northern Europe, the Costa Brava or the Côte d'Azur, that you might head for the middle of the Muslim desert, but it's chock-a-block. And they've relaxed drinking laws there now, so there's a lot more sort of fully fledged entertainment. A lot of the restaurants have moved out of the hotels into the independent world, which is pretty exciting. I think some of the best food I've eaten this year has been in the Middle East, and
wow.
And Saudi, of course, which is a completely new experience, has just been completely and utterly mad. I mean, the restaurant scene in the big cities of Dammam and Riyadh and Jeddah are just extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. I mean, it's a bit of a gold rush. There's sort of every branded Western chef racing in there with the support of someone from the royal family. But yeah, I mean, so there's parts of the world that are just going crazy.
Yeah.
We're hearing market's still soft in Hong Kong, and of course China is just a basket case with our customers up in Shanghai and Beijing and so forth. But the States are really busy, and Southeast Asia's absolutely frantic. So yeah, from my personal experience, yeah, it's been pretty crazy. But yeah, sort of one of the things that I had really reflected on is the fact that we probably don't need to travel as much. Or I shouldn't need to travel as much as I previously did. And it's just travelling for work this year has really, really reinforced to me that I don't want to travel. We've got it so good here. Our lifestyle and our food and beverage offer, and just being around Australians, actually, it's not a bad place to be.
Well, I've only travelled once overseas this year, and I got a tap on the shoulder from Gordon Ramsay to work on a project which will see light next year, and went over to London, and it was amazing. Like, London was just... everything was happening. It was so busy. It got quieter towards the end of the week because the Queen died. I was there then. So it was kind of a weird time to be in London. But I like the restaurants over there. Like, it's been a while since I've been in London, but geez, I had some good food over there, and like incredible service. It's almost like the front of house is over-serviced. It really blew me away.
Really interesting, because, we're hearing that there's still a shortage of staff in the UK as there is here. And I think if there's been one area that I've noticed here domestically in Australia that's really suffered, it's been the front of house.
Totally, yeah.
Service standards, even at some of the finest shops, and particularly the new ones, I think is pretty bloody ordinary in Australia right now. That's the only concession that I'm making, because to hear you say that the service was outstanding in London that's terrific.
Yeah, maybe I just got lucky, but I went to some pretty good restaurants. But look... I just loved getting overseas again, but I actually had the same feeling that I don't necessarily need to travel for work. I'd rather take my family, because I want my young family to explore all these amazing cultures and cuisines in the world. And so while I was away, that's what was ticking away in the back of my head. Even though I was working on a project, not like I want to get it, like I used to be, I want to get on a plane and get over there and explore it because I love my job like that. But I wanted to drag the family along and take them on a trip.
Well, you should. But 24 hours on a plane with those young daughters of yours might, you might want to balance it out a bit.
Yeah. Typical rookie host, I should have said it at the top of the show, we are actually in the private dining room / barbershop of Red Lantern, and we're sitting here with the legend himself, Mark Jensen. Mark.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. It's such a pleasure to have you all here. It's amazing.
Yeah, where are the scissors, mate?
Where are the scissors? Well, they're locked in the drawer because we're busy doing this podcast right now.
What I love about this space is that, yeah, it's a function room if you're eating at the restaurant, Red Lantern, but, you know, in the daytime, it also functions as a barbershop. Yeah. There's barber chairs here. There's things for sale. It's actually quite amazing. Like, how do you balance the two? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, my weeks are generally pretty crazy, but you're right. So in the barbershop here, I've got some military and workwear for sale. I've got the scissors locked up in the drawer at the moment to keep John away from them. Otherwise, we'll all be sporting new haircuts, I think. Yeah, what was really interesting listening to John talk about lobsters earlier is that I've actually managed to sell lobsters here in my establishment this year, and that's always been a challenge for me. I've never been able to sell mud crabs or lobster, and the other week I had a party of 50 here that requested lobster, so that was just awesome.
That's crazy. That's good for your average spend.
Absolutely. No, it's awesome.
What other kinds of things are you noticing in the restaurant? You know, whether it's like diner behaviour or whether you've had to re-engineer the menu to accommodate staff shortages. Like, how's it been? What is?
I think I've pretty much had to do all of those things. So I'm really happy with the menu now. I think that it's just really concise, and it's a menu that we can actually service with 4 people in the kitchen, which is good. And the other thing I've noticed is that the old patterns and the rhythm of the restaurant are just totally out the window, because Tuesday nights for me now are crazy. Like I can do, you know, the restaurant seats 80, but I can do 80 people on a Tuesday night now, whereas prior to this period of time, maybe 30 to 40 was a big night. And conversely, Friday nights can be anything from 50 to 70, which would have been usually traditionally everyone finishes work and goes out and has a great time. So
do you have a read on that? Like, why would that be happening?
Look at it. No, again, with my finger on the pulse, operating the barbershop where people tend to overshare. I have heard stories, again, to John. You've had a lot of wisdom today, John. Spoken a lot of wisdom. I've had people come through and talk about the service, so the front of house in various restaurants, how they go to their favourite restaurant and they could tell that people are under pressure. Mm-hmm. And also they're absolutely prepared to cut people slack because they realise what's going on in the world, but then you can also tell that they're anxious for things to change. They want things to go back to where it is seamless and there is like this really wonderful dining experience.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that myself eating in restaurants a lot, that you do have this feeling of almost wanting to pick up the slack for staff that are obviously very green, might be trying very hard but just aren't noticing things. And the managers just can't be everywhere to you know, okay, I was in a restaurant the other night, a very good restaurant, and the waiter just put down all the cutlery just sort of in a little pile, maybe on the left side of my plate and on my daughter's plate, like just on the right side in a little jumble. And I was like, wow, like, just the sequence of service is all off, and you just want things to be better. You understand why they're not, but it's hopefully. I don't know. Hopefully next year will be a little bit different.
The laws changed or something. Don't they allow people in from February or something like that to be back on working visas and stuff?
No, there's people already back. Yeah.
But it gets extended or something from February, that it's across the board more?
I'm not sure about that. I know there are working holiday visas and like lots of backpackers coming back in. But I think it's that depth of experience. So you need the restaurant managers, you need the somms, you need, chefs, of course. But, I think perhaps people are being employed in better restaurants at a lower skill or experience level out of necessity. Yeah. And then you do have those, people simplifying menus and simplifying the service experience so that those staff can, make things hopefully a smooth experience for guests. But I think also I don't need a long menu, but I think there is a bit of a dumbing down in menus that I would like to see just a little bit more difference and complexity coming back.
And where do you eat on a Monday night? Like, it just seems so many restaurants have just gone, look, we can't do 7 services. We're
I respect Monday, that. That's good.
Absolutely. But I mean, it also means that there's sort of almost this sort of back to the 80s sort of feel where that's what it was then. I mean, most of the fine dining in Sydney didn't open on Sunday or Monday.
Yeah, maybe that's why Tuesdays are so busy, Mark.
Maybe, but that actually just reminded me of another trend that's happening, is that people are dining early. Like
Right.
everybody wants a 6 o'clock booking, and then 8:30 there's barely a soul in the restaurant,
Wow.
and that
That's
is a
interesting.
big change for us.
Yeah.
Lack of
That,
places to go. Music,
that is right in the
live
pocket of
music
my
venues.
family.
Is it
6 o'clock dinner
6 o'clock.
when you've got twin 4-year-olds. That's right on the money.
Yeah, well, I think people have definitely become used to not being able to just, routinely make a 7:30 booking. So I think we diners have been trained a little bit into the realities of turning tables for restaurants, which is, I think, a good thing. I don't mind an early sitting either.
I'd really like to see some of the establishments start looking at what the root cause is of why we are, kind of looking at to rely on these working holiday visas, and start looking at how we turn around the perception of managers and wait staff and get people involved and give them the respect that they deserve, because I think really we need to be training from within right now and not looking to how we solve the problem from the outside world. And so I really think it's time to, like you said, perhaps either change the menu, change services, look at who you've got and what you can do with them, and then maybe look at how the business can change rather than just kind of going, when is this going to change?
I think that's a really good point, Shanteh. I mean, one of the things that I've personally found out as a diner is that a lot of senior staff that have been in management positions in restaurants around the country for a long time are being found out to actually not have great skills themselves. And so that's this, inherent lack of stewardship or mentorship on the floor in particular. I've been staggered actually. Some of the senior wait staff or senior management in restaurants that are now finding themselves in that operational wait position that actually aren't technically very good. And it's kind of like, wow, how did that happen? These guys I've been looking at these guys being managers for 10 years and I didn't realise they were actually shit waiters.
Well, I think conversely there has been, I've noticed some of those people being amazing, and you think, wow, like they haven't had to be on the tools for a while, but it is actually amazing to have that. Maybe it's not so much the technical skills, like filleting a fish or whatever it is at the table, but it's just that depth of knowledge and putting things in context.
Yeah, I'm thinking more things that are sort of more base service levels, like they just don't have roving eyes. You see so many management that are walking through restaurants not looking at clearing a table. I mean, look, when I was student waiter of the year in 1983, would never have cut the mustard.
Well, that's so true, because I'm really fortunate here to have Adam Towers, who a lot of people know. Like he is just so amazing, but he's got those roving eyes. He can train people as well. And I've heard as well, anecdotally, that really people with all the experience have left the industry. So if the trainers have left, the people with the skills have left the industry, who's training the people coming up below them? Yeah,
it's so true.
100%. And I think we should do it in a way that's celebrating. So I would really like, and this is shout out to like Gianluca or someone like Adam Stoddard or Michael Stoddard, sorry. Let's bring back the waiter race that we used to do back in the day, where you'd have like a tray and you'd have to, run up and down. And let's do that in a way where we start talking about people in management, and we get people together and get, general managers and restaurant managers on the floor and talk about, how we can build that up. I think that is something that we should all really kind of be looking forward to, hopefully improving.
Well, it's been a big year, and it feels like everything's sort of back on track, and we're finding our way through. Are there things, Dani, you're in a lot of restaurants. Is there things that you'd like to see the back of this year, just in life or in food?
In life or in food? Big question. I know I have probably had enough Kingfish Carpaccio for a while. I know it's a great product, and you can do, I've also had some great iterations of it, but I'd probably like to see chefs perhaps being more creative with the crudo side of things. What else? I want to see more people getting excited about different sparkling wines. So I guess we've seen a lot of pet nat coming through, but I love seeing excitement about that, especially some of the local options. I think that's something I'd like to see more of. What else? I don't know. I think that sort of some of the high-low, like the caviar on the chicken wings.
The excessive opulence is a bit much,
have we done with that?
Like,
is it time to just get back to like the simple and the perfect, like the beautiful? So I think so many restaurants and chefs are highlighting or really honouring great piece of produce. The more of that, the better, I reckon.
Yeah. How do you, John, you're in a lot of restaurants as well, and so many restaurants move to set menus and to survive, which is fair enough. But how do you feel about that? Are you seeing a shift back and that dining experience of that tasting menu?
Yeah, look, I think there's a fine line, isn't there, between it being sort of this sort of almost gratuitous foisting of food or design of a style of a restaurant by the chef on a consumer, and the opportunity to explore their craft skills. Personally, I'm not a fan, and it's interesting that the omakase thing has exploded in this last year, where it's kind of almost seemingly taken over from the degustation of the Western chefs. These extraordinary, highly priced sort of 20 pieces of sushi or whatever. I think that there's an interesting point in that we haven't been able to travel. Those who wanted that proper experience couldn't get to Japan. Maybe that's going to we're going to see that disappear somewhat because of the reopening of the Japanese borders. And if you want to have the real thing, and you're paying Tokyo prices for some of these omakases as well. And I'm not going to be negative, but I just don't. The experience in at that level in Tokyo or in Nagoya or Osaka or Kyoto, it's a different experience. And I think that there is, it's a fine line between making life easy for the operator and not giving the customer something that, that they want to enjoy. When we were just considering, what do we want to see the back of for 2022, I'd be quite happy to see the back of those sort of set menus, to be honest. I just don't, I think that, to a certain extent, a range of operators have just, quite frankly, taken the piss. And used it as a means to just sort of like get a much higher ticket without necessarily delivering. And for me as well, the whole concept of dining is very different from the concept of going to Cirque du Soleil. But if I'm allowed to say, the other thing that I'm really happy to see the back of in 2022 is Pet Nat. The sooner that I see that go down the drain, the better.
All right, shovel it my way. Shanteh, what about you? What do you want to see the back of?
Bad corks. Still to this day do we see some incredible juice that again goes down the drain because of just faulty corks. We've got a lot of wonderful options now with Diams and Stelvin, so I could definitely see the back end of that. And probably faulty wine. So I think that comes a little bit off what Suso was just saying is, Pet Nat, you have to be a bit of a genius in when you decide to bottle that and to avoid some of those kind of faulty wines. So we're seeing an improvement hugely, but for a while there we were seeing a lot of faulty wines being bottled and people were unsure whether or not it was supposed to be like that and whether they were supposed to like it or not.
Exactly, my point. And I sort of felt this absolute sort of complete confusion as a consumer as to whether or not I was just missing the point or whether it was this lack of balance was what was being designed. It's like, and that. But I think again, like we've sort of almost. I'd like to see the back of faults in everything. Food as well. I mean, that gratuitous use of caviar on chicken wings or truffles on Big Macs or whatever. Like that's just bullshit. And like the sooner that's
it's painful
out of the popular culture, the better.
Well, what about the good things though? What's some of the highlights?
How I really feel.
I was trying to steer away from it quickly before you got in trouble. Some of the highlights or the best dish or meal that you've had of the year, because most of us eat in restaurants quite a bit. Mark, do you have a best experience that you've had or a highlight?
I struggle to think of this single best experience, to tell you the truth, because I think I fall into that category where I actually don't get out a lot.
You're delivering the experience.
I'm delivering the experience. And it's, I guess the thing that I would like to see the end of is people come to, I guess, people have preconceived expectations and they're not as adventurous. Like they are in certain restaurants. It depends where you're pitching your restaurant, right? So they'll go to certain places and they expect a new experience and they'll expect something interesting. But a lot of other places they'll come and they'll expect the kingfish carpaccio because they won't try another fish. So that's the double-edged sword. You know what I mean? So the chef might want to put on I know some Alfonsino or something and do that, but then the customer will say, "What is that?" So I'd actually like the customer to go in and say, "Look, I'm here for the experience." And rather than because they do go to that feed me or that tasting menu for security. Whereas I think a feed me menu should be, look, I'm the customer, I've arrived at the restaurant, feed me.
Yeah, trust
Chef.
me. Like,
Trust.
Put your trust in the
Yes,
restaurant.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually a fan of the tasting menu for the restaurant to be able to express itself and perhaps sneak in a couple of those dishes that customers wouldn't necessarily order but can fall in love with as part of that experience. And yeah, if I think about some of the best meals I've had, it's been that, I mean, it's such a relief for me as a restaurant critic to not have to choose dishes as well. So, and I'm not saying I want the 12 and 13 course menu like more than occasionally, but I think so many restaurants are doing like the 3 course or the 4 course and maybe get a choice of mains. And I actually really appreciate that because I know that they're trying to control the spend and the stock and all that, and I'm very attuned to that. But I think also it can be a really nice way to highlight seasonal produce or to
But nothing's stopping them from doing that on their menu, and there's nothing stopping a trained, skilled wait staff to sell that table side either.
But we know about these trained, skilled wait staff, but they're all in London apparently.
So you're saying we can just buy a lottery ticket and walk into a restaurant and keep our fingers crossed? Is that
absolutely? I mean, you're not really. I mean, you can choose your restaurant though. You still don't. You don't have to go to those places. There are plenty of restaurants that are doing a la carte. But I don't know. I think of a little restaurant in Richmond, in Melbourne, called Lenny, Lene, and it's a almost a solo operation. So a young chef striking out on his own found a good COVID deal on rent, and is doing. I mean, it's a small a la carte menu, very, very small, very tight. And it's, I just think you'd really get the chance to see somebody expressing themselves. And I think that's so much what I want from a restaurant at the moment. It's just to really feel like I'm on... someone's taking me on a journey that hopefully is really pleasant. So I don't know. I just feel like there's less of me wanting to impose my abstract desires on the meal on the Wednesday night, and I'm just pretty up for the journey.
Okay. I mean, I don't not accept it. I just think that there's two different. I mean, that's one style of operation. I think it'd be pretty, almost it'd be hard to attract a broad customer base of like potluck. I think that's a pretty big ask of the consumer.
I agree. Well, I suppose there's always, I mean, we're never going to lose a la carte restaurants, which I'm into that as well. It's great to just go somewhere for a bowl of pasta. So, luckily we can have all things.
Yeah, well, I guess it's restaurants like, we've been in business now for 20 years, and there's things that we just have to have on the menu. Because people, there's a bit of certainty about a restaurant that's been around that long, where they know they can come and get, say, salt and pepper squid, for example, or they can come and get our wok toss beef. So it doesn't leave us much scope to really work around that. But I really get that, and that's why it's so much fun with the young chefs and new businesses, because they're finding their feet, and that's where the excitement is, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the restaurants to do it all, don't we? And that's what's so lucky. It's not that we have to have one restaurant that does it all. Yeah. We can pick and choose, and
I think it's a good point.
And that's why we're fortunate, talking about why we're so lucky to be in Australia. We've got it all.
I've had a couple of good highlights this year, but probably my favourite thing is what's going on in Canberra at the moment. We moved there a couple of years ago, and the evolution of the food scene there is happening quite fast, but it's also happening in a manner that I quite like. In the sense that there's no egos involved, there's no Cirque du Soleil.
They're all at Parliament House, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. But there's some really good wine bars and eateries that are really approachable and celebrating the region, and it's kind of quite nice to be part of that. Within that evolution, it's kind of really quite exciting.
Well, can you name names? Like, what's a favourite food experience of the year?
Oh, well, geez, that's tough. Well, there's places like Paranormal Wines doing, great sort of shared food and really, really great sort of wine list. There's Rebel. There's the boys at EXO. There's a whole sort of Miss Fans as well comes to mind, a sort of modern Vietnamese. There's all these sort of. It's like a young energy. It's people that grew up in Canberra, went and cut their teeth, and they've come back and they've obtained the skills by working in some of Australia's best restaurants, but they're bringing it to Canberra, which is kind of pretty exciting. Yeah,
really exciting. Have you got a favourite food experience, Shanteh?
I suppose I've been someone bought me a gift voucher the other day to the Dinner Ladies, which is a catering business that drops off kind of frozen meals, and they've been pretty amazing. And for somebody who loves to cook, I can spend 4 hours cooking and prepping a meal and not having that time. Having something that you can pull out of the freezer that's super tasty is such a delight. So that was pretty cool. And I did get some lobster when we talked about when it was a bit more affordable from Lobfish, which is down my way as well. Some guys, some divers from Wombara that come and to just get the local, and they do one fish and they do lobster, and it's whatever size, and you kind of can't pick and choose what you get. It's kind of what they get on the day, but they're a couple of local guys, and then felt pretty indulgent.
Love that. Yeah, I've definitely I think COVID trained me to buy ready meals from restaurants or other quality providers, and I'm still doing that. So yeah, Al Dente, which has a great restaurant in Melbourne, but also does delivers pasta to your door. So just to have some excellent cacio e pepe ravioli or something is very, very exciting. And they actually they do lobster ravioli as well, which has been an absolute treat to have something of such good quality in your freezer that you can just whip out for a Wednesday night for the family. I'm all about that.
Well, it is Christmas this week, and we haven't talked about it yet. What's everyone doing, John? What are you up to for Christmas?
It's probably 4,000 light beers and a burnt turkey as it is every year. No.
It's the spirit of Christmas.
You do not do turkey.
No, we don't. I mean, that's what my in-laws would love to do, but no, it'll be the usual spread of whatever's left in the cool room on Christmas Eve.
That's so true.
Which hopefully, if I've stolen some oysters and tucked them away, and possibly some lobster, but probably a few prawns and maybe a bit of fish, and there's I'm definitely heading down that path as well. I normally do a big porchetta and poach a fish, poach some prawns, but I'm actually going to peel it back a bit this year and do
peel the prawns back.
Peel the prawns. Yeah. I'm going to peel the prawns, peel potatoes, shave my back, and I'll be appealing for once. I'm just going to do quite a few salads actually, and sort of lean into the stone fruits if they're kind of good enough.
Yes.
And do some salads that way, and I'm just going to do a little bit of seafood. I'm going to pull back and not have any sort of meat as such. And just keep it nice and light and simple, because I think sometimes you feel like you have to overdo it, and then by 3 o'clock you just want to nap, and I kind of want to take that out of the day a bit. It's
really?
good to. It's good.
A no nap Christmas.
Well, you don't
We're going to check with you.
You don't get the nap when you have 4-year-old twins. You just want the nap.
Right, desperately.
Right.
What about you, Mark? Are you open for Christmas?
I'm open Christmas Eve, so we'll wrap up, and I'll be taking advantage of whatever's in the cool room for Christmas Day. But we'll get together with friends, and it'll just be really simple. So
yeah,
it's interesting that for 20 years I've had this restaurant, and the 28 years I've been cooking. I think this is a really busy time for people in the industry.
Yeah.
So Christmas Day is you want it to be as simple as possible. So it will be salads, it'll be peeling prawns and oysters if we can get my hands on some good ones, and just really light things.
Yeah, nice. Well, I always do a ham at our family Christmas. So I've just ordered my ham from Gary's Meats at Paran Market. So they always do such an amazing job. And I will be glazing it with a spicy peach and mango chutney that I make. And I'm just as excited about taking some ham sandwiches to the cricket on the second day of the test as I am about the Christmas Day experience.
Awesome.
I'm going to do F all if I can help it this Christmas. No, I'm going to leave it to everybody else. We've got 2 different days, but I am going to do a cheese course this year. And I said, rather than an abundance of cheeses, again, there's so much waste at Christmas, I think. I'm going to just do one cheese. Got some truffles from Kalimba and thought, I'm just going to do nice triple cream, cut it in half, shove some truffle in the middle, and just serve it with some nice bread. But rather than have every single different type of cheese, and then that's all I'm doing.
Love it.
Sounds amazing. Well, it's been amazing to catch up with everyone, and thank you, Mark, for letting us enjoy Red Lantern at the back here, and we should have got a haircut while we were here.
I know. We'll tee that up next time. But yeah, again, a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Well, Dani, Shanteh, John, and Quiet Rob in the background lurking. Have a great Christmas, everyone. Thank you for everything that you do. You're legends. And
thank you,
catch you next
Anthony.
year.
Hey.